I'd like to invite you all to have a seat, and we're going to get things wrapped up. We understand we are keeping you all from drinks and dinner at the Cosmosphere, so we're not going to take a whole lot of your time, but I wanted to take a moment to thank you all again for staying. We got a fairly good group left at the end of the day, so congratulations and thank you for sticking around to listen to us a little bit more. My name is Dorothy Barnett. I work for the Climate and Energy Project. I actually live here in Hutchinson, so welcome to my hometown. I'm glad that you all are here and hope that you found this to be a productive day. You'll notice that one of the organizations that sponsored this group is something that we call HART, or the Heartland Alliance for Regional Transmission. This is a group of non-traditional stakeholders, and you've heard that term from some other people throughout the day, but I'd like to elaborate on it just a little bit and tell you what this group does and how it got started. And so actually a couple of years ago we wrote a grant, and so part of what this group is funded through a Department of Energy grant, and we worked really hard to do an outreach to all of the Southwest Power Pool states and bring together what we call non-traditional stakeholders. So we have people who are landowners, we have agriculture producers. You all met Boyd Orr this morning. We have county commissioners, we have clean energy advocates, we have folks from Texas, New Mexico, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Kansas. We have 28 stakeholders right now. There are, you met some this morning, Boyd Orr this morning. You're going to hear from some more on this panel in just a few minutes, but there are some others in the audience I'd like to recognize as well. David Touche is here from New Mexico, and David flew in this afternoon, so thank you for joining us, David. I'm not sure if Mickey Dean from Harvey County is still here, but she will be back for dinner. She's another one of our HART stakeholders. We have a really great group of people who have been convening and getting together since January to explore and talk about the very things that you all have been talking about all day. Part of what the Climate and Energy Project has been working with this group is to help them organize a grassroots effort to figure out how to talk to their peers about transmission and about wind energy and why they're important to one another. And so we've done some work since January. We've gotten together. I would encourage you to visit our website that our group is going to talk more about. We'll all be around this evening, so we're happy to chat with you more at cocktails and dinner later. But I'd like to start off with our panel here. They're going to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about HART from their perspective.
The good news is this will be by far the shortest panel of the day, and certainly my piece will exemplify that. My name is Grant Bannister. I'm from Manhattan, Kansas. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, but basically I've been charged with communicating two things. One about HART's meeting or convening in Oklahoma City in January, and then second, my perceptions or my role and where that fits in with HART, and I'll take those in that particular order. It's been about half a year or maybe a little longer since we met. That was our last in-person meeting and also our first one. As you just heard from Dorothy, about 30 stakeholders from most of the SPP states came together. I think there are at least 7 of the states. She identified kind of the different professions or vocational interests that we came from. We were there several days. The first day we had some panels. We heard from different experts within the field. Specifically, representatives of SPP were there, as well as several utilities, Kansas City Power and Light, Westar, OG&E, and then there were also representatives from different sources of energy, whether that's traditional or renewable, and we had some presentations, some question and answers, and after sharing that information and reviewing different materials provided by the Energy Information Administration. We broke into smaller groups, found some common ground, some common interest, and ultimately surveyed our interest. From that survey, we were able to confirm some assumptions maybe that we had, but didn't know whether they were accurate or not. And then from that survey, able to establish some goals, maybe somewhat of a mission on a grassroots level, and target some benchmarks or ideas. And I think Meyer will expand maybe a little bit on those. When we departed from Oklahoma City, again, it's a new experience. We're kind of getting our foothold, and we were a group, yet obviously we're about 30 individuals that not quite clear on how we were going to march forward. One of the things that has come out of that meeting is our involvement or participation in helping this conference come together, and I think that's very pleasing for all of us that we see that as certainly one of the better products we've been able to be involved with. We do meet regularly on teleconference. We have a website devoted to our organization. Throw out a little marketing for that, www.heartlandtransmission.org. I'd encourage any or all of you to visit that. I think it's loaded with good information that's helpful and useful, both in general terms and our organization specifically. So that's kind of about our Oklahoma convening. Now, where do I fit into this? Maybe categorically as a landowner. You heard Dorothy mention a number of noble professions, farmers, ranchers, educators, county officials, commissioners, and then I had to go and ruin that because by profession I'm an attorney, and they threw me in there. But to give you a little background, I had 5 minutes to fill, so I'll give you my 2-minute life story here. Coming out of law school, a law firm in Manhattan was interested in me and asked me to come fill a position. They had a young attorney named Sam something that was going to leave and go to be Secretary of Agriculture in Kansas, and then go on and do some other things, including speaking to us this morning. So I went and took that job, went into estate planning, represented a number of ranchers and farmers. Eventually, they started bringing in these wind-lease agreements. I don't know anything about these. It's hard for me to justify the time to learn about them, to do 2 or 3 here or there. And they just kept coming and coming, asking and asking. So eventually, I started to read the things and figure out what was going on, and represented a number of landowners on their easements and leases. That kind of grew into additional engagement or interaction with ranchers and landowners and farmers, where they said, this is all great, but we'd like a little more activity or participation in this. What if we formed our own groups? It sounded like a good idea, so we started to put together landowners and organizations, and before long we had 6 landowner organizations with about 20,000 acre blocks, and we found out that there was definitely a market for that, whether it was wind companies or utilities or international developers, they liked being able to skip that phase of the land acquisition or having to gather leases and easements, and being able to circumvent that step was a win-win for the landowner and for those organizations. And so today we have those groups in varying degrees of progression, from having power purchase agreements to filing their applications or sitting in the queue or earlier in the process and still credentialing or gathering data. I'm pleased. I think I've seen or talked to 4 or 5 leaders of those organizations that are here today. And again, it kind of comes back to the HART concept of being involved at the very grassroots level of landowners, being involved, participating with the transmission process. I think most of them have headed back to Western Kansas today. I know one's still here, Terry Antonin, and he's been a great leader in 2 of those organizations. I appreciate that when I point him out. So that's a little bit about the HART Oklahoma meeting and myself and why I'm involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Myra?
Thank you very much. My name is Myra Pancrazio. I represent economic development for 3 counties in New Mexico. Eastern Bernalillo, which is part of the Albuquerque area, if you're familiar with the state of New Mexico. Southern Santa Fe, which is part of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And then Torrance County. We have a little over 1,500 megawatts of solar and wind coming into one county with 16,000 people. I've been doing this for about 15 years, and probably about 10 years ago, it became very frustrating. I'm going to go a little backwards and tell you why I'm doing that, and then I'll tell you what our action plan is with HART. It seems like with anything in economic development, we always do it backwards, from the state to the regional to the federal level. We had a governor that was very proactive about, for the last 9 years, that said we're going to be one of the greatest renewable energy states, and we're going to go out there and make it happen, and he did. We have a lot of stuff going on, but we forgot about transmission. So we have all these projects, but we can't move it anywhere. So that forced economic developers in the state of New Mexico to get involved. There's a lot of us involved on the Western grid, which is the Southwest Energy Alliance, and I want to identify one of my colleagues that's here from New Mexico, Mike Elliott, that's with the Southwest Energy Alliance. We're working on the western side of this, and then I'm one of the stakeholders on the HART side. So that's kind of why I'm involved. As going back to HART, after we had the 3-day event, it was awesome. There were so many different people and so many ideas, and we found out that not only on the eastern grid and the Texas grid, the western grid, we all had something in common. And it was great to have all these states and all of these individuals and stakeholders come together and share their ideas, their frustrations, and put a plan together how we thought we could move forward. So just in a real quick, the plan is education and communication. It's real important that the private sector is just as boisterous as the public sector. There's a lot of things that go on in transmission. We found out in this workshop that it's just kind of tied up in knots. It seems to get kind of lost in the politics, so to speak. So what we did is we decided, that the private sector is just as important. So we decided we would educate our peers, being the private sector, our citizens in our communities, our education institutions, find out what's going on out there and bring it all together. And then we would be a communicative instrument, and we would help mobilize and educate our public sector as far as utility companies, co-op boards, utility boards, and Chamber of Commerce's, all of those entities out there, and educate them and talk to them about transmission. Ultimately, some of the things just specifically that I will talk about is because it kind of works on both sides is as far as communication, I think is what Grant alluded to is the webinars and the fact that we meet once a month and we talk about what's going on in your state, what's going on in the Southwest Power Pool, and what's going on the Western grid, because in the Texas grid, what's kind of happening over there. And then sharing ideas. We develop materials for our peers so that they're knowledgeable. But one of the biggest impacts that we feel we can have is my colleague, or not my colleague, but one of our speakers a little while ago, the representative, indicated that a lot of people are here, and there's been a great bunch of panelists, and a lot of them are game changers. And one thing HART isn't is a game changer. We want to be the entity that brings the game changers together so that they can all bring their ideas and their resources to the table, and that we can communicate that and educate that out through this Southwest Power Pool area. One of the biggest things that we are working on, my portion with the Southwest Energy Alliance and HART, is an economic impact model. And we are working with the New Mexico Clean Energy Alliance in New Mexico, where every economic developer is involved. When you have a client that comes to the table and they're going to do a utility scale project, or they're going to do a transmission project, or they're to do anything in the renewable energy sector, is that this form is filled out and then it's sent to our state economic development department so that we can put it all together and have one big economic impact model for the state. If we can get each state to do that and then kind of collaborate together with all the alliances across the U.S., I think that we would have a bigger voice in moving together a national renewable energy plan for our U.S. So we're working on that project as well. I'll close by saying that as an economic developer, there's a lot of great reasons to have renewable energy, but mine is about jobs. And if there's no other reason, what I was sharing with Dorothy a little while ago is all of us in this room aren't going to have a job if we don't find a way to get some transmission so we can move this forward. I saw the planners here today. I've seen the analysis. I see the lawyers. I see everybody that's impacted in one way or the other for renewable energy. It's not just about the jobs, the construction jobs, or the guy that's going to run the plant or hang the put up the pole or put up the tower. It's all of the planners and the people in the beginning that move it forward that also impact this industry. So thank you very much. I'm very proud to be a part of this group, and I want to thank Dorothy Barnett for all her work. Thank you.
Mark, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Richardson. I'm the landowner representative for the HART organization, and I'll back up what Myra just said about Dorothy and the organization before I forget. So putting all this together along with Jeff, of course, so it's turned out to be a great day. But I grew up down the road about 10 miles, so I had a short trip today, but actually I live here in town now. But my roots are with the land as a landowner, farmer, mostly retired from the farming portion, but still a landowner. And so as we move forward with this HART organization, there's of course landowners in the HART organization. I suppose, is it clear to everyone we have the SPP footprint effectively as we represent? So I'm speaking landowner. I'll speak about Kansas because I'm familiar with that. So and in particular, landowners, I think going forward and observing what's occurred this year from the agriculture point of view, at least as far as crop production, it's been a tough year, especially about I-70 South, I think. So Representative Holmes and I were joking this morning about the drive across the country and there's 4 rows of corn. And we're not sure to the layperson. They think, well, what's the matter with that farmer? His corn crop just got tired and went home, or I can't remember now what the nature of the joke was, but it's not really a joke. That's the sad part about it. It's because we had a drought in this part of the area, and I do know it extends to the south, so I think I can speak for our neighbors to the south. So the reason why I bring that up particularly is because the opportunity that additional transmission will afford us going forward with wind opportunities, the wind development in this part of the state and some to the east, but mostly to the west. It's a great fit for the landowners and the agricultural communities, rural communities that really need economic boost going forward. So it's not just the landowner itself, the guy that's lucky enough to get the wind turbines, but it extends to the communities, the rural communities as a whole. So, but that's looking at it from the landowner's point of view. That's the primary thing I am to speak about, my interest in being in HART. But then also, I just happen to have a Siemens lanyard from having a tour of the factory when it opened here in town. So it goes without saying that's multiple reason for a lot of us in this particular area, at least, to be interested in the transmission, because we know that's what makes the possible for Siemens and other people to sell the vendors that sell the products to make it all possible. So backing up what Governor Brownback said this morning, it's time to buy Kansas wind. He was, I guess, making an announcement to the entire country. Well, it's time for us to figure out how we're going to sell that wind. And we heard the way today for the most part. I think it's a given that we have the resource, we have the structure now to build, we have the vendors, we have what it takes, we have the interest in the landowners, we have we have a group of people who are willing to go forward with wind energy development, but the big lacking thing, of course, is the transmission. So we have to figure out how to sell Kansas wind. And so that gets us around to the infrastructure. Now my day job, so I could farm for all those years and keep the paint on the John Deere tractors a little bit brighter, was with what was the Santa Fe Railroad and then Burlington Northern Santa Fe. So that gave me the economic stability to farm, but there's a lot of folks that don't have that luxury, and if there's an economic opportunity like wind, in addition to the farm income, it's akin to the oil development, of course, and who would turn down an oil well? So that's kind of where we are with this great opportunity we have for this wind development in our rural areas. So, but then my experience with the railroad was such that we moved unit grain trains from western Kansas, primarily going to the Gulf of Mexico. So I think it's a great analogy, a great metaphor for what some of the folks here want to do is to move the large chunks of wind energy out of this state to market. So that's the key. We have to, whether we use existing infrastructure or build new infrastructure, it's all about getting our product to market. And it's no different than, I think Boyd this morning and Steve a little bit ago talked about the cattle. We had to have the railroads 100 years ago to move the cattle, and everybody wanted the railroad to come to town so they could get the economic engine going. Well, that's where we are now with the transmission build out. So I think Myra talked about Grant did about the website, become anyone's interested in joining the organization. And it's, so we have landowners, Chamber of Commerce folks, county commissioners, economic development, who'd I miss? Mayors. Clean energy advocates. So I think that's about my slant on it, and I think it means a lot for landowners to get behind this, to help and work through the transmission siting process. And it's good to hear today the efforts that whether it's a utility or the folks themselves are trying to build a transmission, and how they'll go out and talk to the folks. And we've already had a meeting in town with one of the organizations to do just that. So thank you.
Thank you. So one of the things we'd like to do is invite those on the webcast or anybody here or anybody who's been here. We're in a place now with HART. We've got, 28, 30 people. We would love to have more of you join us as stakeholders. So if you fit into any of those categories, or if you would consider yourself a non-traditional stakeholder, we would love to have you be a part of HART. You can go to our website, heartlandtransmission.org, and click on the stakeholder link. There's a very short application process, and so we'll be following up to see if you're interested. I think Bill is going to have some closing remarks. And while he's coming down, I want to give you just a couple of reminders about the day and about what's happening next. In your packets, we did have some evaluation forms, and if you would take a few minutes to share with us your opinions, we would love to hear what you have to say about everything that's happened today. You can drop those off out front. We also are recycling name tags and lanyards. If any of you are leaving home instead of joining us for dinner, we'd love to take those as well. After Bill wraps up with some closing remarks, we would invite you to join us at the Kansas Cosmosphere. If you've never been there, it's an awesome site. We're going to have refreshments, adult beverages, and then we'll have a nice dinner. So we hope to see you all there. Thank you, and here's Bill.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of the Energy Future Coalition and Americans for a Clean Energy Grid, our new initiative name, and we're just very grateful to Dorothy, to Jeff Risley, to everyone here in Hutchinson and all over the region who came out for this, to all of our co-sponsors, Siemens, ITC, the Chamber of Commerce, here at the Community College, Westar. We've had tremendous support, tremendous response for this, to Governor Brownback and to Commissioner Spitzer, to all of the elected officials who came out today and all the other officials who came out today. Your hospitality, your interest, and your engagement in this has just been really exceptional, and we're just very happy to have been a part of it. So thanks for being so gracious, hosting us here, and for participating, for all of you coming out in the audience, and we look forward to working with you. Visit our website. We'll have lots of information on this event out there. We've recorded lots of things, and we'll have lots of other data and things that have been referenced here, and we'll be working on other stories. I know that we've already got a bunch of stories up on the web. The press has covered this event, so we've got local press and national press covering it, so we're really pleased with that as well. So thanks to you all for making it such a great success, and thanks again to everyone. Thanks.